Well, guys, Jackie Hill Perry is in the house. I wish it was in my actual house.
That would be nice.
I wish we could actually hang out because, yeah, I like you, Jackie. I like you. You're
And
my friend.
and what's funny, you got this sweater on. You in Texas? I'm confused.
Oh, well, you know
Is it
what? It's rainy today. When it rains or is less than 90 degrees, we wear sweaters.
okay?
That's what happens.
Okay.
We
All
put
right.
on boots and we put on sweaters.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Mrs. Allen. I appreciate it.
Yeah. 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 Um, well, I'm excited about your devotional. I mean, first of all, can we just talk about the cute little bird on the cover and the story of your cover? Because it is the greatest cover.
No, it's beautiful. Yeah, we went through a couple iterations, and cover art is a big deal for me. I think
Yeah.
I think a book, you can judge about a book by its cover
Yeah.
sometimes. And so when they came back with that one, it evoked something in me viscerally, which is the reaction that I want people to feel. It's like this bird who wakes up and is singing who to the creator, I would suppose, and just kind of like that being a metaphor for us, like that we should be waking up and singing to him or talking to him or at the very least saying hello.
Yeah. At the very least.
Yeah.
And is that easy for you to do
Uh,
that with young
easier
kids?
now.
And
Easier now. It didn't used to be. And I think I've tried to make it a practice because I've seen the difference in my ability to serve others when I've met with God. And I no longer kind of have this like religious pressure that God will hate me if I don't talk to him. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like if I have room or space for 10 minutes or an hour, he still loves me, you know. And so I think having a concept of like being secure in Jesus, even apart from the intensity of my spiritual disciplines, has freed me to meet him without all the extra baggage.
let's go back to old Jackie just became a Christian because I know she was a little legalistic. I've seen some of your posts. They're so great. So
Well,
great.
fresh Jackie wasn't. It was when Jackie got around the older legalistic saints.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you get indoctrinated there, and then something changes, and even just it just came out of you just now. Like you experience God's grace, you experience His favor, even when you aren't deserving of it. What shifted, and what does that feel like now? Do you ever miss legalistic, Jackie? There are some book pros to being legalistic. It kind of keeps us
Like
in line.
what?
I don't know. We just
Discipline.
yeah
Yeah.
that
But it's a joyless discipline. And
right.
so that's not fun. It's feeling
No.
like, I'm gonna go to hell if I don't do this. I think what changed is I was a part of a church community that was hyper legalistic. I don't know if you can be hyper legalistic, but they were to the point, nobody hugged in the church. We all fist bumped because you didn't want to, you wanted to guard your heart. If you were on the phone with people, you made sure that you at least mentioned Jesus at some point in the conversation, because if you didn't, it was considered having an idle conversation. And
Wow.
so you met with God every single day. God forbid you get into a car and you don't give somebody the gospel. It was just very intense. And I thought that was Christianity until we came to find out that our leadership were all being sexually immoral, using
Wow.
scriptures to manipulate women into sexual practices and all the things. And
Oh,
so that kind of crushed me because it was like, we're all trying to obey God with all of these like precepts and laws that y'all gave us, and y'all are living lawless. Like, that's crazy. And so I had to kind of, I won't say deconstruct, but I had to just get back to the basics of what is grace. What is like, why was the Holy Spirit sent? What is justification? What does that all mean? What do God,
mm.
do you love me even when I do nothing? And I think going through that process just kind of, I don't know, freed me a bit.
So going through that process is for a lot of people, they walk away from God, they walk away from the church.
Yeah.
I mean, you say that like it was kind of a Saturday, but that probably was pretty dramatic.
No, it was traumatic for
It
sure.
was, yeah.
Yeah. God was kind. I think he kept me. And so one of the ways he kept me is that I was super like I just was cool on church for a minute. And I made it up in my mind that if I have my Bible, if I got the Holy Ghost, and I got a couple friends that hang out with me every now and again and talk about Jesus at Applebee's, I'll be straight. Like I don't need to be a member of a local church to love the Lord. And I had moved back home to St. Louis, and I was at Chipotle. I was probably 20. I went back home and I saw this guy and this other guy, this black guy and this white guy, opening the Bible together. And I was like, huh, I should ask them what they're doing. And that ain't even my personality. So that's how you
No,
know it's
it's
the Holy
not.
Ghost. And so I went over and I was like, hey, I see y'all reading the Bible together. Like, do y'all go to a church or something? And they were like, yeah, we're actually starting a church plant. Long story short, I went to the church plant. In that time, the pastor, the first time we met, he took me to Acts, where Jesus is talking to Paul, and he says, like, why are you persecuting me? And he's like, I'm not even persecuting you. And Jesus is like, if you persecuting the church, you persecuting me. And the Spirit used
Wow.
that to convict me, but challenge me to see the church in the way that Jesus sees the church, which is that he's so identified with his bride that if I'm gonna love Jesus, I need to love his body. And so I think being planted back in a healthy body then helped me to process the true gospel.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that right there, people are going to have to sit with that, rewind that, because yeah, the conviction of it is bigger than our desire, bigger than our hurt, bigger than the reality that this is hard. So let's talk about your devotional. Was it fun to create this? What'd you think about when you were writing this, when you were thinking about all the people that would read it?
Oh man, I don't even know. Yeah, it wasn't fun per se. It was kind of hard. I didn't expect it to be as difficult as it was. It's to the point that we had to skim it down because originally it was supposed to be 90 days, and I went back to the publisher and was like, "Yeah, I can't
I've
do
done that.
90. We got to do 2 months,
Yeah.
sir." And
Yeah.
so, I don't know. I guess I thought about what I would want to read. Like I would want if you're gonna have me getting up in the morning and supposedly meet with God, then this thing needs to have some meat. It needs to have some depth.
Yeah.
It needs to challenge me and redirect my thinking or even my view of myself, my view of the world, my understanding of the scriptures. Like if I only have 15 minutes, how can I be challenged but also encouraged in a place that I don't know would serve people? So that's what I was thinking. I was thinking about what would I want, and so I wrote that way.
You have a lot of outputs right now in your life, speaking, podcasts, writing. What are your inputs?
What do you mean?
How do you get that? Like what are you taking in? Where do you take it in? When do you take it in?
Yeah. Well, there's the Lord. And so I've had seasons that were busier than this one that left me really empty and stressed and anxious and sad and confused. And that was because I didn't have a discipline of abiding. I was just pouring. And so I just was empty. And so I've made it my business now to get with God because I'm just not a good person. And so there's that. I think I don't have a lot of friends, but the people that I do have are good people. So checking on me, seeing how I am, us talking about stupid stuff, sending TikToks to each other, and then I think my family, my children, my husband, I think they do something for me, for my heart. They humanize me in a way. I can't explain what I mean, but I think all of that.
They take you out of your head into your body, into your real life.
Yeah. Like when your daughter just comes up and starts talking to you about nothing, absolutely nothing. That's completely exciting to her. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And me like thinking about these moments won't last forever. So let me be here. Let me be embodied with you. I don't have to be nothing to you except your mama. I think there's something about that.
What's your favorite thing to do that you do?
Preach. I like preaching. It's
do you feel like podcasting is like it? Do you feel like podcasting is preaching, or do you feel like it's totally different?
No, because with podcasting, I'm having a conversation with my husband, right? And so it's a conversation that we would otherwise have but not record. It's been nothing but obedience that I've continued podcasting. I don't necessarily want to do it. I would prefer to not. but it's over here serving the kingdom. People are being blessed and they seeing Jesus and loving him. So it's been nothing but me waiting for God to say, you give me the green light and I will stop podcasting today. My life would be easier. So pray for me, Jennie.
Yeah. Well, I'm just picturing you doing that downstairs with all your kids. Y'all shoot podcasts over
we do it during that time.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. All right. So what do you feel like you're doing the thing? Do you feel like you're at peace in your soul right now?
Mm-hmm. I do. Yeah, I think if anything, I think if I ever feel insecure, it's if I'm giving my children enough. Like, am I discipling them enough? Am I teaching them enough? Should they be in cheerleading? Should they be in piano? Are there activities that I'm like, am I too distracted by ministry that I'm not like making them full and whole human beings? I think that's the part of my life that I'm always wondering is that good enough? My mothering.
You got to have help, Jackie. Do you have enough help? How's that go?
Yeah. My mother lives with me. So she is very practically helpful. Like my mother's a busybody. She can't not sit down. So even what you see me do publicly is because I've just inherited this busybody spirit. And she's always cleaning, folding, watering stuff. Like rest is not a thing for her. So she's helpful. And then we also have a nanny who helps us during the day with, just watching the kids so that I could write or do podcasts or have this conversation with you. And then after 3:30, everybody is off and I cook dinner and read Narnia.
Yeah. That's so great. Well, I do feel like there's not a super person. Like people, we all have help, and there's a way that this is all getting done with our people, especially yours. I mean, you got a lot of littles right now. So how do you have fun? Is that a value of yours at all?
It is. I haven't had fun per se in a while. If I were to have fun, it would be having game nights, playing Monopoly and spades. That would be fun to me. But I haven't created space for that type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's hysterical and dorky that's what your fun would be. I think we need to be better friends, Jackie. I will help you think bigger and better about your fun.
I love games. Or going out to eat is fun to me. Watching documentaries is fun to me. But watching a documentary and being able to talk about it, like it's not enough just to watch it. I want to actually discuss it and say, isn't that interesting? For example, Netflix has a new documentary about Juul, the like little smoking thing.
I saw you post about that, and now I want to watch it now.
You need to. It's one.
You think it's a sermon illustration? Tell me how.
Jennie, watch it. So they created this device so as to help eliminate people smoking actual cigarettes, right? But then they created a device, but marketed it to a generation of people who weren't actually smoking cigarettes. So you just created another addiction and another problem. And to me, it feels like licentiousness versus legalism. You created a cleaner way to die. They're still dying. They just die differently. And I think that's a parable. See?
I think it'll be.
Ain't that fun?
I mean, that wasn't around back when you were pagan. Like that wasn't. You didn't do vaping.
Vapes didn't exist. Edibles, none of that.
I mean, it's real though. Like the addiction of my kids' friends. Your kids aren't old enough yet, but young. I mean, starting in 7th grade, 6th grade, like they're getting this stuff. It's real. You're in your car. You're gonna film something. You're gonna record yourself talking about something. Is it just what's on your mind in that moment? Like what?
Yes.
Take us behind your brain.
Yeah, I'm always processing. I don't share half of what I process because I don't necessarily think that that's great leadership to vent or to communicate unprocessed thoughts out loud to a people that might land in ways that are unhelpful. And so I'm also thinking about, would it be helpful to share this? If not, then process it with a human being that you actually know. But I'm gonna process it either way.
You tackle crazy stuff that
you think so?
I do a little. I mean, I think sometimes it's gotten you in a little trouble, but largely
Yeah.
it's like you can talk about big issues. Like you just dropped a podcast on homosexuality, and it doesn't feel like you're getting blown up about it. Like how do
Mm-mm.
you how is it just because now this is what you've been through and this is what you talk about? Like, did you ever get a ton of pushback, persecution for this?
For sexuality, in the
Yeah, for
secular
talking about
space,
yeah,
yeah, this in the secular space for sure. I think there, yeah, I think that the gay same sex attraction conversation, it feels a bit typical now, and so
yeah,
I don't think people are necessarily as offended, and it's expected from me. You know, I have a whole book called "Gay Girl, Good God," and so I just always think that it's less the content is a thing. The content makes people mad, but I also think that it's the approach, it's the authenticity.
that's right.
I think people see me touch stuff that's awkward all the time, you know, but I think people know I care by now. I think they know I care. I'm really not doing it for any other reason than the truth is what sets people free. So
Mm, yeah.
yeah.
Well, yeah, you kill it. I mean, I'm just grateful because it's tricky. And I think your story and your life is, is helpful to the conversation as well.
Thank you, Jenny.
Let's talk about, your marriage. I'm just having fun.
Ah,
I'm just like, here's the deal, y'all. I haven't
this
caught
is
up with
very
my
Jennie
friend in a
Allen.
while. I haven't caught up with my friend in a while. So that's what I'm doing.
This is very
Um,
Jennie Allen.
how's
You,
marriage?
marriage, marriage is good. It's crazy because in March 1st, we'll be married 10 years.
Wow.
Um, and it feels like 10 years, and it doesn't feel like 10 years.
Yeah.
And yet we still feel so curious about each other. You know, it's like I know you and you know me. There's things that we just know, but I'm still getting to know you. I'm still figuring
Hmm.
you out, and you're still figuring me out. And I think some of it is there is this newness to each season, right? And so getting to know Preston when we were both, I was 24, he was 27 when we got married. Like that was different with no kids, no public ministry, no businesses, like we just in a house with no cable, you know, eating ramen noodles all the time, right? Like that's a
Yeah.
different intimacy that's being formed versus having four children, having parents that are aging, dealing with that, right? Like having the ministries, having businesses, having a dog, having the life, like intimacy, and it just looks different because of the season we're in. And I expect it's going to continue to look different. And so I'm I'm just intrigued by marriage. It's just an interesting thing. That's basically what I'm trying to say. It's interesting. And we're in a society where marriages around us are consistently failing,
Mm,
you know? So also
yeah.
managing that, having friends who got married with you who are now divorced, or having friends where there's
Yeah.
adultery, pornography addiction, or having, like, all of that is tense, you know? And so also being able to be present with the people who are around you where marriage is not a thing anymore.
Mm. Do y'all have people in your life, like people discipling you and,
Oh, yeah.
talk about
Yeah.
those people,
Yeah.
your church or,
So Melody Fabian is one of my mentors. And she's always been my mentor, but now it's become more of a broader situation where now CD, her husband, they've become more present for us as a marriage. So not just Jackie and Melody, but now Jackie, Melody, CD, Preston.
how'd you meet
Um,
her?
my pastor introduced her to me when I was, I think, 22, and said, Jackie needs
Wow.
discipleship.
Yeah. We all thank Melody. Thank you,
Yeah.
Melody.
So yeah,
And so how do they, yeah, what do they do now? I mean, yeah, what's it look
so
like now?
so me and Melody, I don't know what Preston and CD do. I know they talk sometimes, but me and Melody, we talk every other week. So I had a conversation with her yesterday. We talked for an hour and a half. And then this December, me and Preston are having a prayer retreat with each other, and this is the first time we were like, let's invite married couples that we trust to speak into
Mm,
the vision casting that we have for next year. And so we have our pastor, our old pastor from Chicago, and his wife, and Melody and CD. So just trying to also create space for like continuous discipleship, because I even think that if you have a marriage ministry with your husband, sometimes people can get in the habit of planning in isolation, which is cool. Like you need vision. You can get vision from God in isolation. But what if you have people who are older than you and have done ministry longer than you and have done life and have done marriage longer than you to come and speak into that? But that's something I learned through discipleship. So I'm always thinking, how can we invite other people to give us wise counsel in this situation? Always, because I would be a fool if I didn't.
Did they
Absolutely.
suggest? Did they suggest a prayer retreat?
No, I did.
Tell me more.
So Crawford the Ritz, I had a class with him a couple months ago, and he said every married couple needs at least 2 to 3 days a year, or not 2 to 3 times a year, where they get away, get quiet, and they pray, and they talk. Where are we? Where are we
Yep.
going? How are we doing? And
Yeah.
the pandemic messed that up because we was doing it all the time. We ain't got nothing but time
Right. Yeah.
to say where are we,
Sick
how
of each
are we
other.
doing? Yeah, like
Yeah.
we good. We done
Yeah.
had 30,000 meetings, but I think since the pandemic has lifted, everybody's gotten busy again, where
Yep.
we actually
It's
need to
true.
remember to like schedule pauses to recalibrate.
I love it. We did that. We did that every quarter,
Mm.
I'd say several months. And
Mm-hmm.
when our kids were little, we didn't ever get real big vacations. You're good about
Mm.
that. But because you always miss because you're on some cool vacation.
You have
Good for you.
if
Good for you.
every time I have an
On,
anniversary.
I
You need to
know.
change it to April.
I know. Just wrong. Yeah, we'll change all of it. Jackie, we'll
Okay.
change it for your anniversary.
I'm just saying.
I know. But I do think that it kept us. Like it kept
Mm.
us because we would over 2 to 3 months, something would go and it would be a chance to just notice that thing, whatever it
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that had gotten out of whack. And especially with how much y'all are juggling. I love that you do that. That's super helpful.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Okay. What have you wanted to vent about lately that you didn't do?
I won't share that.
Dang
But
it.
I can speak
Okay. Just
around
give me the
it.
subject. Yeah. There you go.
I can say what I've been saying, which is
Okay.
uh I am very irritated by the selfishness of much of the Bible teaching.
Mm.
And I've been thinking through, how do we equip, I think you do this, I think if does this, but how can local churches even um just really think how to equip people to be Bereans? How do you teach people practically how to listen to a message and determine if it's true? That's
Mm.
what I've been asking myself.
People
Like, how
don't
do you
think.
train that?
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I think,
yeah.
I mean, I would say that I have my thought.
Please.
People aren't on mission, so they don't need the word, so they don't need truth, so they don't need to think for themselves. If you're on mission, you're having hard conversations every day. If you're having conversations with people pushing back on something, then you have to go and figure out what it means. You can't. I don't think we have a desire till we have desperation to give it away, and because people aren't making disciples. And I'm not talking about what we do. I'm talking about hopefully what both of us do in our real life too, is just who are the people we're discipling? Like who are the people that their name, their problems, their struggles. And if you have that, then you're going to have somebody looking back at you going, I don't know if that's true. Like, why is that
Yeah.
true? And then all of a sudden you have to come to it yourself and figure it out. But what do you think?
Yeah, that's helpful. Because I think so much of how we listen is a part of who we are, right? And what is shaping the way we tick. And so what it sounds like to me, you're saying is, if you are comfortable, then of course you're careless in how you interrogate the teaching you listen to. And perhaps you want to listen to teaching that reinforces your comfort instead of challenging you out of it. That's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you're actually in a rhythm of giving away truth, it's all of us should be teachers, right? Everybody.
Yeah.
That's when I got good, was when And when I wanted to study and when I wanted to understand for myself was when I was giving it away to a little living room of girls. And if I felt responsible and I felt like they've got to be
Yeah.
able to do this. But
Yeah.
because discipleship isn't taught in the church, then you don't have anybody. It's all stagnant water. It's like all going in and it just sits there and it doesn't go
Yeah.
anywhere. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, so what are you saying though? I kind of feel like I'm saying one thing and you're bothered by something else.
No, you said it's how do we discern truth? But I guess you draw that out is you don't discern truth just to understand it, but to apply it, right? So if in Matthew 28, God says, go therefore and make disciples of all nations, what is a part of the discipleship? Teaching them to obey. So we don't just teach so that people can understand intellectually, but we teach so that they can believe and behave according to what they know. And so I think that's the bigger picture is if people are listening to teaching that is highly self-centered, then the way they live is self-centered, right? So the
Mm,
way you live is I am comfortable, I am safe, I am successful, I am this, I am that. I am like we become lovers of ourselves because the teaching itself is like a self. But if the teaching is true insofar as it exalts Jesus above everything and what he's told us to do and who he is and like his preeminence, then I think that demands a response that is God centered. And so I don't know if I'm even making sense, but to me, it's like we would see a shift even in how our churches and the world functions. If everybody was on mission, like for real, the world would change. It would
that's
have
it.
to.
That's it. But the problem is, you're looking at 2 decades of consumeristic Christianity or more,
Yeah.
starting in
Yeah.
the 80s, really. Um, you have
How did it start?
far,
Because I am writing a paper about this, so I need sources.
I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but there was a whole movement of the whole goal was to attract the
Mm,
person to, I mean, the attractional church model was a
mm,
whole thing. And, kind of launched the mega church. And again,
mm,
I go to a big church that is
mm-hmm.
probably to some degree a result of that. And we all know there's not a problem with numbers. There's not a problem with size.
Yeah.
It's discipleship. It's, are you
Yeah.
known? Are you actually, do you have a smaller expression where you're being challenged, where you're being convicted, where you're being pushed to know your gifts, to use your gifts, to be on
Yeah.
mission? But I don't know that you're right. A lot falls into place when discipleship is is in front of people as the goal. Because if they become a disciple and they follow Christ and they know that pretty quickly they have to give it away to somebody
Yep.
else, then they're going to be seeking the truth for themselves and
Yep.
they're going to want to understand it in a different way. And
Yep.
so, yeah, I think
And you know
pushing.
why it's important too, Jenny, is that I I'm not that old. I'm 34, right? But what I'm seeing is that the longer you live, the more you suffer.
Yeah,
And I don't know if we have the capacity to suffer well if we
yeah,
don't know the Lord.
we
You get
don't.
what I'm saying?
People aren't. Yeah, people are in bondage, right? They're living under oppression. They don't even know how to fight back against
Yeah.
the
And
oppression that's coming in their lives everywhere because it's rampant. Yeah.
yeah. So I think the enemy leverages suffering when God wants to use it. But it really will be difficult to, I guess, endure suffering in a good way if you don't see God in it, if you don't have some truth about his nature to cling to, if you don't have some stability according to his word. So I think that's also a frustration of mine is that like it's not easy to live here on this earth. And so if we're not giving people truth, then we're setting people up to fail. We really
Yeah.
are.
I mean, I feel like when I look at college students right now, young adults, and I say, okay, everybody jump, they're like, how high? I mean, they're hungry. They want
Mm-hmm.
God. They want truth. They're not confused about the world being empty. Like they've already tasted it. They already know.
Yeah.
And I think we're about to see something great. We're already seeing it, but
Mm-hmm.
once they get free in the world. So I think they want that. They want depth.
Yeah,
They want to understand the war that we're in and how to win
for
it
sure.
and how to fight. You see that too?
I think so. Yeah, there's a thirstiness
Mm-hmm.
that's present. There's an excitement. And I think not even my generation, I think Gen Z in particular, when them cats believe in something, the way they fight for it is just crazy, you know. And so to
Yeah,
me, they are such the ideal generation for, I think, the kingdom of God, to be honest.
I do too.
Is
I
Yeah,
do
like
too.
if their hearts are converted and they see God clearly, they gonna march on them campuses and let people know. Now the enemy gonna come in and take all of that zeal and excitement and try to twist it. You know, am I doing too much? Am I being extra? Am I being zealous? Am I being judgmental? And so I think that's when an older Christian comes alongside them and
Yeah.
to kind of temper the zeal, but also to stir it up. And so that's why all generations are needed, I think.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to light a fire under all of us and we're going to be struggling to keep up. That's how it
Oh
feels.
yeah, I believe
It's
it.
good.
I believe it.
Good. Okay. I am grateful for you, friend. I'm grateful for how you're fighting out there. I do feel it and I'm grateful. So
Thank
thanks.
you. Thank you.